Good afternoon, everyone. I am Carrie Little, the managing broker of Caremark Realty Group here in West Chicago, Illinois. And, I just wanted to come to you just to talk to you about why I got into real estate back in 2001. So, back in 2001, hey, Daphne, I got into real estate, number one, because when I went to buy a house in 1997, of course, when I went to buy a house, I thought everybody wanted to buy a house because that's what we think. So when I went to start looking for a home, I had a real estate agent, loved my real estate agent. She was smart as a whip. Also found out that she was an educator. And she helped me through the entire process. But when I went to buy my house, the first few houses we looked at, we always lost on the bid because for whatever reason back in 97, I'm almost convinced that there must have been a great deal. And I didn't understand the industry. So we ended up buying new construction. Now my real estate agent talked us through the process. She actually showed up to the property, talked to me about how new construction works. And bear with me because I'm trying to share this post on my personal page at the same time. So she actually, she helped me understand what new construction was. And back then we did not have down payment programs. We didn't have grant programs. None of that was available to us. So when I went to buy a house, I think I was in a position to buy, but I was not really good with paying my bills on time. I paid my bills, but being late, I guess I was okay with it because I really didn't understand. And I could blame my mother, but I won't. Not her fault. I didn't listen. So, some of you guys don't listen. I get it. But hopefully you'll listen to me today. So when I went to buy a house, and I think it was, I can't even remember, it was something with an M. And I don't even think that real estate company is in the business anymore. So I had to write a lot of letters. So we wrote an offer on new construction, and we used the new construction lender because that lender gave us a discount. So because this lender was going to get us a discount, I thought that's the way we need to go. So we used that lender, and I had to write a lot of letters. So if you are in the process of buying a house, and not just your real estate agent, but if your lender is saying, I need you to write a letter on why you were late on this credit card. This is what happens when you don't turn your phone on airplane mode. But anyway, so I had to write letters explaining why I was late. I had to write letters for a few things. And I felt like this is too much work. If you want to buy a house and you're sick of renting, you will do what the lender says. So I had to write a lot of letters, and not to knock the loan officer at the time, but the loan officer never told me that I actually qualified to buy a house. So I thought I was going through all these motions to see if I qualified. But had the lender said, if you do all of this, you will get a clear to close, or the process is you start to look for a house, you need to work with the lender first because you need money. Number two, once you get the money, you then need to turn in all of your paperwork, your W-2s, your 1040, last 2 years of W-2s. You have to give your pay stubs. You have to show your bank statements, usually last 3 months of bank statements, to prove that you have money in the bank. And today, if you're getting a loan 3% or 3.5% down, you must have that money in the bank, even if we negotiate closing costs. So as just a person that wasn't a real estate agent, that was a lot of work, and I really didn't get it. So when the reason why I got into real estate was because I thought I could explain it or help the consumer a whole lot better. So why I got into the real estate business. Hey, Tracy and Daphne. So I got into the real estate business, and I'm typing. So why I decided to sell real estate. So people can watch this on my personal page at the same time. So what I found was my real estate agent, she knew more than the loan officer. My real estate agent also knew more than my attorney. And my real estate agent was the one that pretty much kept the entire deal together. So I loved her for it. So I figured that if I could make the process a whole lot easier for my buyers, or for people that wanted to buy, I thought, let me go take the real estate exam. Let me get into the business because I think I can take someone from beginning to end a whole lot better. And when I work with clients, they like me because I tell them my story. I told them how, and Aldi is awesome, but back in 1997, Aldi didn't look the way it looked today. So I started, look, we had to eat beans and rice like for 5 or 6 months. So I didn't have the down payment. My mom gave me a grant, not a grant, she gave me a gift. And then I had to pay $1,000 a month to come up with the 5% down, because back then when you bought new construction, you were required to put down 5%. So I was paying rent at $1,000, and then I had to pay a new $1,000 to buy this house. And then I still needed a little bit more money to buy the house. But when you want to buy a house bad enough, you will do whatever you have to do to buy it. So I'm now in the real estate business because, hey Andrea, because I realized that I could do just as good of a job, if not better. And I like to tell buyers, when you go to buy, it's one of the biggest purchases you will ever make. So let me, the real estate agent, help you from beginning to end. So if you are someone thinking about getting into real estate, we might make this look really easy, but there's a lot of work. We have to learn how the loan processing works. We have to learn how underwriting works. We have to understand what a conforming loan is versus a non-conforming loan. We have to understand, we have to actually talk to our clients like this. And not every client, but I will say to my clients, when you go to write an offer on a house, you have earnest money. What's earnest money? It means you're earnestly interested in the property, and guess what? They will cash the check. Yeah. And it may not be true for everyone, but I literally did not, I was clueless about buying the house, all the way to the point that when I closed, I didn't know I had closed until I got the keys. I didn't know I was an owner until I got the keys. So that is really one of the main reasons why I got into real estate, because I felt like there was a disconnect in home ownership. So if you're a real estate agent, sometimes we just assume people understand how to buy a house, but that's not always true. I've always lived in a house. Since the time I was a kid, I always lived in the house. And I didn't, when I moved out, my mom sold the house, I rented. So I was like, no way, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I need to own a house. And the other thing that happened back in 1997 is I had an interest rate over 7%, and it was a 5-in-1 ARM, and that meant every year it was going to go up 1%. It was based on the interest rates. So I didn't have a fixed rate. So I really became an expert in the industry to the point where I probably could be a loan officer. If I went back to school, I could be an attorney. Too much work. I could probably work in downstate in Illinois because they don't use attorneys, because I happen to be paralegal. So if you're just joining me, the reasons why I got into real estate was, number one, real estate agents don't do a good job of explaining the process. Number two, when I went to buy, I worked really hard, and whenever I tell that story to my new buyers, they do the same thing I do. They want to understand, a lot of them have to write letters. A lot of them are frustrated when a loan officer says, I need this, and this. And to all my loan officer friends, sometimes you need to really bring down the conversation or the terms down to a consumer's level, because we don't get it. When someone goes to buy a house and you say, oh yeah, well, it's going to cost you 4.5%, but it really doesn't cost you 4.5%, or you're going to need this much money for closing. And you're like, we just don't, the average consumer may not understand the steps to home ownership. So if you are a loan officer, I beg you, make the language simple, and then say, no question is a dumb question. Because what happens with buyers, especially first-time buyers or first-time investors, they don't understand the process if they've never lived in their own home where they've owned it, or if their parents have never owned a home, or if you're working with someone from another country. And by the way, I love working with people from other countries because they value home ownership better than those of us that were born in America. For those of us that are native to America, that that buyer that comes here from other country, they'll work 2 and 3 jobs to buy a house. And in the state of Illinois, someone that is naturalized to the state, meaning they become a citizen, they're more likely to buy if they become a citizen. So no, I'm not licensed in Indiana, but I have a friend who is. So DM me and I'll send you a referral. If you are someone thinking about getting into real estate, when you get into real estate, you might be overwhelmed, but you get access to so much information, and then you have the ability to educate yourself. So I'm Carrie Little, managing broker of Caremark Realty Group. If you have questions, feel free, post your questions here online. If it's a private question, send me a direct message, DM. And if you're looking to buy, I'm gonna share a link as soon as I end this live video, and you can click and you can start shopping as soon as you click for your dream house, or maybe it's your first time home. And if you're a first time seller, sometimes you just need to know the market. So thank you so much for joining me. Keep watching. I'm gonna try to go live a little more often, and I'm pretty much intentional on Instagram. So go find me on Instagram. I'm Carrie Jo Little, and then you can friend me here on Facebook or like my business page. Again, thanks for joining me.